What if the very thing you're trying to fix doesn't need fixing at all? What if all your struggles, all your searching, all your endless efforts to become something better, what if they are the very thing that keeps you from what you already are? Right now, as you listen to these words, something extraordinary is happening. Your mind is moving, thinking, analyzing, but beneath all that movement, there is something that never moves, something that watches, something that simply is. This is not philosophy. This is not theory. This is the most practical thing in the world. Because in this moment of stillness, everything that seemed broken suddenly reveals itself as whole. Can you feel it? That space between your thoughts? That gap where no problem exists? Where no solution is needed? Where nothing needs to be fixed because nothing was ever broken? The power of stillness is not something you acquire. It's not a technique you master. It's what remains when you stop trying to master anything at all. We live in a world of constant motion. Our minds race from thought to thought, from worry to worry, from desire to desire. We believe that movement means progress. We believe that thinking means understanding. We believe that doing means achieving. But what if this very movement is what keeps us from seeing clearly? Watch your mind right now. See how it jumps. See how it searches. See how it tries to grasp these words, to understand them, to fit them into what it already knows. This is the movement of thought. Restless, never satisfied, always seeking something more. Notice how thought divides everything. It separates the observer from the observed, the thinker from the thought, the seeker from what is sought. It creates problems and then searches for solutions. It imagines a future that must be different from the present. It carries the past like a heavy shadow, coloring everything with what was. When you're anxious, what do? You think about solutions. You plan. You analyze. You move faster, as if speed could outrun the anxiety itself. When you're sad, you try to change your mood. When you're angry, you look for someone to blame or some way to express it. Always movement, always action, always effort. But have you ever wondered who is making all this effort? Who is the one that feels broken? Who is the one that needs fixing? If you look closely, really look, can you find this person? Or do you find only thoughts about this person? Stories about this person, images and memories that create the illusion of someone who is separate from life itself. But have you ever noticed what happens in those rare moments when you stop? Not the stopping that comes from exhaustion, but the stopping that comes from suddenly seeing the futility of all that movement? In that stillness, something extraordinary occurs. The problem that seems so urgent, so real, so demanding of your attention, simply dissolves. Not because you solved it, but because you see it was never really there in the first place. Krishnamurti once observed, "In the space between two thoughts, there is no thinker." Can you feel this? In that gap, who are you? What problems exist there? What needs fixing when there is no one to be fixed? This stillness is not emptiness. It's not a void. It's fullness itself. It's the ground from which all thoughts arise and to which they return. It's what you are when you're not trying to be anything. But we have been conditioned to believe that silence is the absence of noise, that stillness is the absence of movement. We've been taught that peace must be achieved, that freedom must be earned, that happiness must be pursued. These are the fundamental misconceptions that keep us trapped in endless cycles of seeking. Stillness is not the opposite of movement. It's the very ground in which movement occurs. It's not the absence of sound, but that which hears all sounds. It's not empty space, but the fullness that contains all space. When you understand this, when you feel this, the whole search begins to unravel. Think of a lake on a perfectly calm day. The surface is so still that it perfectly reflects the sky, the trees, the clouds. But if you throw a stone into that lake, what happens? Ripples spread across the surface. The reflection is broken. The clarity is lost. The mind is like this lake. Thoughts are like stones. And we spend our lives throwing stone after stone, wondering why we can't see clearly. But watch what happens. Does the lake struggle to become still again? Does it practice techniques for calmness? Does it read books about how to be peaceful? No. When the disturbance passes, stillness returns naturally. This is its nature. This is what it is. The ripples were never separate from the lake. They were movements of the lake itself. And when they subside, only the lake remains, as it always was. Your nature is stillness. Not the stillness you create through effort, but the stillness you are. The stillness that exists before thought, during thought, and after thought. The stillness that remains whether your mind is agitated or calm, whether your life is chaotic or ordered, whether you feel broken or whole. When you realize this, when you rest in this understanding, something magical happens. All the things you were trying to fix begin to fix themselves. Not because you did anything, but because the one who thought they needed fixing was never really there. If these words resonate with something deep within you, consider joining our community of seekers by subscribing for more explorations into the nature of consciousness and peace. We carry our problems like heavy stones in a backpack, never questioning whether we need to carry them at all. We've carried them so long, we've forgotten what it feels like to walk without their weight. We've identified so completely with our burdens that we can't imagine who we would be without them. But what is a problem, really? Look at any problem you think you have. Strip away the story, the interpretation, the judgment, the emotional charge. What remains? A situation, a fact, something that simply is. The problem is not the situation itself, but your resistance to it. The suffering is not what happened, but what you think should have happened instead. Krishnamurti spoke of this when he said, "The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude toward the problem." Can you see this? Can you feel how the mind creates suffering by comparing what is with what it thinks should be? But stillness doesn't carry anything. Stillness doesn't need anything. Stillness doesn't lack anything. In stillness, there is no past to regret, no future to worry about, no present to improve. There is just this. Simple, immediate, complete. You might protest, but I have real problems, real responsibilities, real challenges. Yes, of course. Life presents situations that require response. But watch carefully. Where do these problems exist? They exist in thought. They exist in the story you tell yourself about what should be different, what could be different, what must be different. The situation is what it is. The problem is what you think about the situation. The suffering is what you think about the problem. But in the stillness that you are, there is just what is. No story, no judgment, no resistance. And paradoxically, from this place of complete acceptance, right action emerges naturally. When you stop fighting the river, you discover how to swim. When you stop resisting the wind, you learn to dance with it. When you stop trying to fix your life, life begins to flow in its own perfect rhythm. It's like being in a dream. In the dream, you struggle, you fight, you try to escape. But when you wake up, you realize there was nothing to fight, nothing to escape, nothing that was ever really happening to the real you. The dreamer was never in danger. The one who awakens was always free. This moment, this very moment, you can wake up. Not tomorrow when you've meditated more, not next week when you've read more books, not next year when you've solved your problems. Right now, because the stillness that fixes everything is not somewhere else. It's not sometime else. It's here. It's now. It's what you are. And then suddenly, you see it. You see that you've been trying to fix something that was never broken. You've been seeking something you already have. You've been becoming something you already are. This is the great turning. This is the insight that changes everything without changing anything at all. You realize that the seeker and the sought are one. The observer and the observed are one. The one who wants peace and peace itself are one. It's not that your problems disappear forever. Thoughts still come. Challenges still arise. Emotions still flow. But the one who was bothered by all of this, where did they go? The one who needed everything to be different. Can you find them? This is the great mystery. The one who suffered was never really there. It was a collection of thoughts, memories, projections, and identifications. It was a story the mind told itself about being separate from life. But you, the real you, the you that is aware of thoughts but is not thought itself, this you was never touched by any of it. Like clouds passing through the sky, experiences pass through awareness. The sky is never stained by the clouds. It doesn't become cloudy. It remains clear space, allowing all weather to come and go. Your essential nature is like the sky, vast, Open, untouchable, always clear. This is what Krishnamurti pointed to when he said, "Truth is a pathless land. You cannot walk toward what you are. You cannot practice being yourself. You cannot become stillness because you are stillness pretending to be someone who needs to find stillness. But the pretense is so convincing. We've believed the story of separation for so long that we've forgotten it's just a story. We've identified with the character in the play so completely that we've forgotten we're the stage on which the play is performed. It's the cosmic joke. It's the divine play. It's like a wave on the ocean asking, 'How can I find the ocean?' The wave is ocean. It was never separate from ocean. Its apparent separation exists only in thought, only in the story it tells itself about being a wave rather than water. And just like the wave that suddenly recognizes its oceanic nature doesn't disappear, you don't disappear when you recognize your true nature. The person you thought you were continues to function, but without the weight of believing they are separate from life. The personality continues, but it's seen as a costume rather than your identity. When this is seen, really seen, not just understood intellectually but perceived directly, laughter bubbles up. Not because anything is funny, but because the whole search was so unnecessary. So beautifully, perfectly unnecessary. The mind that was seeking becomes quiet. Not the quietness of suppression, but the quietness of satisfaction. Like a child who has been looking everywhere for a toy, only to discover it was in their hand the entire time. The seeking stops. The struggle ends. Not because you found what you were looking for, but because you realized you were never lost. And from this recognition, life continues. But differently, situations still arise, but without the weight of the one who was troubled by situations. Thoughts still come, but without the thinker who was identified with thoughts. Life flows, but without the resistance of the one who wanted it to flow differently. This is the power of stillness. It doesn't fix anything because nothing needs fixing. It doesn't solve anything because there are no problems in stillness. It doesn't heal anything because in stillness, nothing is broken. Share this realization with others who may be searching for what they already are. For in that sharing, the understanding deepens and the recognition spreads like ripples of silence in a noisy world. So where does this leave you now? Here, in this moment, with these words fading and silence returning. What will you do with this understanding? Will you make it into another concept to think about? Will you turn it into a practice to perform? Will you create a goal out of goallessness itself? The mind is so clever. It can turn even the most profound realization into another object to possess, another achievement to claim, another identity to adopt. Now I am enlightened. Now I understand stillness. Now I am spiritual. But who is this I that claims to understand? Can you find this one who supposedly gets it? Or will you simply rest? Will you let these words dissolve back into the stillness from which they came? Will you allow yourself to be what you've always been without trying to become it? The invitation is not to do anything. The invitation is to stop doing, to stop trying, to stop becoming, to simply be still. Not the stillness of a statue, frozen and lifeless, but the dynamic stillness of space itself, always present, never moving, allowing everything to dance within it while remaining forever untouched. This is not a state you enter. This is not an experience you have. This is what you are, right now, before you understood anything, before you tried to fix anything, before you even started searching. The stillness that is reading these words through your eyes, the stillness that is breathing through your lungs, the stillness that beats your heart without your instruction. Listen. Can you hear it? Beneath all the sounds, there is silence. Beneath all the thoughts, there is stillness. Beneath all the movement of life, there is that which never moves, that which needs nothing, that which lacks nothing, that which is you. This is not the end of something. This is not the beginning of something. This is what is always here, always now, always available. Not as an experience to be had, but as what you are. The next time you feel broken, remember the lake. The next time you feel lost, remember space. The next time you feel you need fixing, remember that the one who needs fixing exists only in thought, and you are what remains when even that thought dissolves. Close your eyes if you wish, or keep them open. It doesn't matter. Stillness sees through all eyes. Stillness breathes through all lungs. Stillness beats in all hearts. Rest here, not as a practice, but as a recognition. Not as something you do, but as what you are. Let the power of stillness reveal itself, not as power over something, but as what remains when there is nothing left to overcome. If this exploration has touched something wordless within you, we warmly invite you to subscribe and join our contemplative community. Leave a comment sharing any insights that arose in your own stillness, and consider passing this reflection along to someone who might be ready to stop seeking and start being. Together, in our individual silence, we discover we were never apart from what we sought. The power of stillness is not yours or mine. It is what we are.